Well, I'm sure a disciplined woman such as yourself has a very useful purpose for this money.
Yes, I do. I'm just gonna blow it.
Soundstripe.
Prior to this review, I had never seen this movie, but I knew if Queen was in it, it was worth the watch. And it was. Miss Georgia was simply minding her business, blowing her funds, and trying to have a good time in the meantime. If anything, this movie is a reminder to live life, explore, have fun, create good memories, and all that good stuff. Life is so short. We must cherish it and ball out every once in a while. With that being said, while watching this movie, I noticed some things, and you know I have my thoughts, but before we get to that, it's time to recap. So let's get into it. The movie opens with Georgia singing at choir rehearsal. She was not giving it her all, and the choir director noticed and called her out on it. We follow Georgia as she goes to her local market to pick up some goodies, and then she heads home. We meet her neighbor friend, Darius, who anxiously awaited the meal she promised him. Georgia loved to cook, and she loved Emerald, and I'm not gonna lie, I was obsessed with his show when I was younger, so I totally understand her obsession with him. But she cooks this amazing meal that she doesn't even eat. She feeds Darius and gives the leftovers to his grandfather, choosing to eat a lean cuisine instead. Darius sees Georgia putting something in her possibilities book, so he gets a little nosy, pulls the book out and looks through it. He notices this picture and asks her about it. His name was Sean, a co-worker of hers. We follow Georgia to work. Her co-worker, Rochelle, urges her to speak to Sean. Ironically, he speaks to her first, which makes her blush. It's obvious that the attraction is mutual. Rochelle continues to urge her to make a move.
Then you need to go down there and you need
workplace.
to talk to Mr. Big Stuff and you need to tell him what you want for Christmas. You just sit in his lap. Sean!
Georgia continues being awkward. She goes to Sean's work area to start a conversation. He quickly shooed this guy away, thinking this was the moment for them to get each other's number or set up a date. The crazy thing was, instead of them exchanging numbers, Georgia psychs herself out and somehow convinced herself to buy a damn grill. Girl didn't even have a front or backyard. We fast forward to Georgia doing a demonstration at work. Instead of management being happy with Georgia engaging with the customers, Adamian was more concerned about her feeding moochers, aka customers who weren't buying anything. Georgia's cooking attracts Sean up to her department. He tries some of her food and loves it. As they are talking, Sean starts to ask her out, but they get distracted when Georgia drops some utensils and then knocks her own self out. Sean carries her to the on-site clinic. Of course, Adamian was there to survey the potential financial damage. After the doctor convinces Adamian to allow him to do a scan on Georgia, the doctor ends up finding something. He gets a second opinion from another doctor who confirms that she has a virus, Lampington's, that is terminal without treatment. She's told she has 3 weeks to live. Georgia is in disbelief and refuses to accept her fate, so the doctor encourages her to talk to Catherine, her HMO administrator. Catherine tells her that she's not covered and that if she wants to pay out of pocket, it will be $340,000, and that didn't even cover anesthesia. Knowing that she doesn't have the coverage nor the money to get the treatment, Georgia accepts her fate. She goes home and cries over all the things she never got to do, all the things she never did while she had the opportunity, including all the good food she cooked only to give it away. The next day, Georgia goes to work and demands to speak with Adamian, who is an asshole per usual. She smashes his phone after he tries to get her to listen to this guy, their boss, Matthew Cragen. She breaks his CD and tells him that she plans to quit. This woke Adamian right up because the company was doing bad, but Georgia's department and her steady sales were pretty much saving the company from going down completely. He had the nerve to offer her 75 cents more an hour, but she declined. As she should. Sean finally got the courage to ask her out, and he'd bought 2 tickets to a game and everything. But Georgia, knowing her fate, declined his offer, which really hurt her heart because she loved her some Sean. Me personally, if I'm leaving this earth anyway, might as well have me a good time before I'm called to the upper room. I'm just saying. Georgia carries her feelings to the church house. Those feelings even spread over the congregation.
Lord, dear Lord, why me? I never cussed my boss or nothing like that.
And I guess this did something for her spirit because she decided then and there to ball out. This girl liquidated her IRA and the bonds her mother left her.
Well, I'm sure a disciplined woman such as yourself has a very useful purpose for this money.
Yes, I do. I'm just gonna blow it.
So Georgia immediately buys a plane ticket to Europe. She hits a snag on the plane when this guy rudely tries to recline his seat on her lap. Instead of correcting him, the flight attendants tried to convince her to allow him to do it and tell her if she wanted more leg room, she should have purchased a first-class ticket, as if she couldn't do it.
How much is it?
Beg your pardon?
How much for the damn cocoon?
That cocoon, bought it. Wine, bought the whole damn bottle. The helicopter ride to the hotel, bought that too. My question is, how much money did this girl have? She is really balling out in less than 24 hours. Georgia arrives at the hotel, and it doesn't take long before people start whispering about her arrival, assuming that she was some rich socialite. She gets the presidential suite for $4,000 a night. Again, how much money did this girl have? As she's waiting to be escorted to her room, she sees Matthew Cragen, her ex-boss, and the guy that Damien was obsessed with in the hotel lobby. Later, after a little shopping spree, Georgia goes to dinner. She immediately gets the attention of Matthew and Miss Burns, Congressman Stewart, and Senator Dillings. Georgia finds it hard to choose one item from the menu, so she orders everything, which gets the attention of Chef Didier. She couldn't wait to dig in and make up for all the time she didn't enjoy all those good meals she cooked. She didn't even realize that Senator Dillings was admiring her from the other side of the room, and all their eyes became even more glued on Georgia after the chef decided to sit and greet her instead of them. As the chef and Georgia are chatting, Matthew asks Senator Dillings if he knew Georgia. When Georgia first arrived at the hotel, she mentioned that the senator missed their meeting. This small comment made its way to Miss Burns, and now everyone thought that she and the senator knew each other on a personal level. Senator Dillings mentioned that he may have met her before at a business event in New Orleans. Meanwhile, back in New Orleans, Sean was busy trying to hunt down Georgia and figure out why she'd gone missing. He asks Dr. Gupta about what happened with Georgia. He tells him that she's going to die due to her condition, and Sean was in disbelief. Back in Europe, Georgia was getting some self-care. While she was chilling in the healing waters, she officially met Senator Dillings. Turns out the meeting that he missed was set to be at Georgia's church. Meanwhile, Matthew was hating on Georgia and immediately suggested that she may be trouble. Ironically, she officially meets him too in the elevator. She clocks his relationship, if we can even call it that, with Miss Burns, which makes him even more suspicious of her. Later on that night, as Georgia was swimming in her hotel sheets, she gets a visit from her floor valet, Gunther. Gunther was not delighted at all to be of service to her, and Georgia noticed. So after she ordered her self-care services for the next day, she decided to treat Gunther to one.
The colon irrigation treatment. That's my gift to you. Now you think of me when you're having it.
The next day, Georgia has fun on the slopes and ends up running into Matthew yet again. They damn near lose their lives. Sometime later, after Georgia gets another massage, she overhears Miss Burns giving one of the workers a hard time. So she walks on over and gets her together.
I don't like the way you're talking to that woman. You got tension in your neck because you keep going down on Mr. Cragen, and he's a married man. At least this poor lady trying to work it out of here.
Put her in her place real quick. Miss Burns came over to her after her massage, trying to sell her sob story to her, but Georgia didn't want to hear that. She instead encouraged her to see things for what they were, leave Matthew, and go back to school. Matthew immediately notices the change in Miss Burns when talking about Georgia. She's grown fond of her, and Miss Burns mentioned what Georgia told her when they first met, that Matthew's business would have a horrible fourth quarter, which again makes him even more more suspicious of Georgia and her intentions. This lady is literally minding her business and spending her money, yet this man thinks she's out to get him. Back in New Orleans, Sean stopped by Georgia's home. Of course, she wasn't there. He meets Darius, her neighbor. Darius shows Sean Georgia's possibilities book. To my surprise, this doesn't scare him away. He's even more determined to find her. Back in Europe, Senator Dillings invites Georgia to their table, but little did they know, the chef reserved a special table for her, so Georgia invited them to sit with her. Matthew didn't want to join. He decided to hate from the other side of the room. He eventually joined them, though, just as Chef Didier came to greet Georgia and declared to the group that he would not be making any substitutions. As they all talk, well, everyone except for Matthew, Georgia revealed that she was going base jumping the following day. The group preferred to go watch Georgia jump instead of doing whatever the hell Matthew wanted to do, so of course he tagged along and decided to do it with her. So there they were, getting prepared to jump. Georgia listened to the instructions and jumped. Matthew, not so much. Georgia's good vibes are spreading to everyone except for Matthew and Gunther.
She's a fraud, I tell you.
Matthew and Gunther plot on Georgia and decide to figure out what she does for a living. Later on, as Georgia walks alone, she starts thinking about her life and what's left of it. Meanwhile, Sean was on his way to Europe. Georgia had good luck at the hotel casino, winning over $100,000. Matthew, of course, lost all his bets trying to bet against Georgia's luck. And to keep this downtrend going, Gunther found Georgia's farewell letter that confirmed that she wasn't a scammer. She was dying and simply wanted to have a good time for the last time. Later that night, Georgia and Senator Dillings talked. He asked her why they never crossed paths before, and she reminded him that he rarely left Washington now. She mentioned Matthew and the company he's keeping and reminds him to not forget about the people in their hometown. When Georgia made it back to her room, Gunther had changed her tune. She started being all sweet and affectionate. She eventually confirmed that she'd gone through her things and read her farewell note. She questioned why Georgia wanted to spend her last days with such terrible people. This prompted Georgia to think about her loved ones back home, and she began planning her trip back. Same time, Sean had finally made it to Europe, but they were prevented from seeing each other due to an avalanche. Meanwhile, Gunther revealed her findings to Matthew, and he wasn't pleased with the lackluster tea she revealed. Sean wasn't going to let that avalanche stop him. He decided to walk and climb to the hotel. Baby, if that ain't love, I don't know what is. After the avalanche, the hotel kitchen started to struggle, so Georgia came down to see if Chef Didier needed some help. He happily accepted. The news of Georgia's imminent demise had gotten around thanks to Gunther, and the chef was emotional about it. But Georgia insisted that they cook together and not think about it. As Georgia's time winds down, she makes a promise to herself.
Next time, we'll do things different. We will laugh more, we'll love more, we'll see the world. We just won't be so afraid.
Meanwhile, Dr. Gupta found out that Georgia wasn't dying and that her misdiagnosis was due to faulty equipment. Now he had to hunt her down to tell her the good news. Matthew had had enough of Georgia intruding in on his fun and his crew, so he revealed in front of everyone that Georgia was nothing but a sales clerk. But even this doesn't work in his favor because Georgia doesn't have anything bad to fess up to. She never lied about who she was. They simply made up a narrative about her this entire time because of what she was able to buy and the people she attracted to her for being genuine. On top of that, she revealed to the group that she was dying, and that was why she was balling out. Now, Matthew felt stupid, as he should.
Asshole.
It's a very appropriate sentiment, darling.
Dr. Gupta faxed over a letter to Georgia, but no one was there to receive it. As this was happening, Matthew's silly, drunk ass decided to sit on the ledge of the hotel, and Georgia decided to play hero and convince him to get off the ledge. Just as she gets through to him, Georgia swears she hears someone call her name. She starts thinking that it's the Lord calling her home, child.
It's starting to happen. I mean, I can hear him calling my name right now.
Sean finally made it to the hotel, and Gunther just so happened to find the fax from Dr. Gupta, so she rushes up to tell Georgia the good news. Meanwhile, Sean admits that he had feelings for her and wanted to be with her. Shortly after, Gunther told Georgia about the fax and that she wasn't going to die, and of course, she was happy. And this was great news for Sean, who confirmed that he meant every word he said about being with her. We fast forward to Georgia and Sean at their bistro back in New Orleans. Chef Didier came to visit along with her coworkers and friends and her idol, Emerald, and we get an old-fashioned "where are they now" ending. Miss Burns went back to school, spa school. Gunther opened up her own detective agency. Chef Didier was a guest on Emerald's show. Damien was hit by a bus while talking on the phone. Dr. Gupta quit the clinic and moved to the Himalayas. And Matthew's wife eventually left him, took all his money, child, and he later joined Dr. Gupta in the Himalayas himself. Georgia and Sean got married in an untraditional ceremony, and that was the end of the movie. And here are my final thoughts. I'm glad that Georgia got to ball out for once in her life. That's cool and everything, but the responsible side of me wonders what her retirement is going to look like. Will she have to work for the rest of her life? And I know she won $100,000 at the casino, but if she had enough money left over after balling out in Europe, how much money did she have initially? Georgia lived responsibly. She watched what she ate, watched what she spent, hardly splurged on herself, hardly ever treated herself. She was simply existing. She was even too afraid to talk to Sean, who had already shown interest in her. So much so that she bought a grill instead of simply asking him out or asking for his number. It wasn't until she had to accept that she was dying that she decided to really live. She went to Europe and had these random people making narratives about her life when she was simply minding her business and spending her hard-earned money. What bothered me about that was that they made Georgia a spectacle, or entertainment, I should say. Oh, Georgia's going base jumping. Let's go watch her. Georgia's eating and buying up the whole restaurant. Let's invite her over. Let's find out why and how this woman can afford what we can afford to do. Georgia was literally being herself, being genuine, which attracted the masseuse, the chef, Miss Bird, and eventually Gunther to her, but Matthew assumed she must have been a scammer. I mean, what other reason would she be here and be able to get the same things he could? If Georgia would have been more open prior to the misdiagnosis, so many doors could have been opened for her back home. She could have started something with Sean, gotten a Damien's position even, eaten her amazing meals with Sean or others, so much more. She was an amazing person, and it was unfortunate that she didn't show that side to herself until she felt like her life was ending. Another thing, I sincerely hope that Georgia sued the clinic for their misdiagnosis. I believe that falls under extreme pain and suffering, but leave Dr. Gupta out of it. That man was stressed enough. Overall, this movie really reminds you to live and cherish life. It's far too short to deprive yourself of fun moments, good food, good people, good love, and whatever your heart desires. You want to leave this life with great memories and stories, not shoulda, coulda, wouldas. I had never seen this movie before, and I gotta say that I really enjoyed it and plan to keep this in my holiday movie rotation. Queen Latifah has a habit of being in feel-good movies. It's just in the contract, you know? Anyways, that's it for this review. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. As for the next review, all I'm gonna say is 2003. This movie co-stars a late king of comedy, and listen, this particular Santa had no business being this naughty or out of pocket, drunk and messy work. See you next time, you guys. Bye.